Hello fellow exiles and welcome to another video guide of two, this time, summoner builds. So, just a little bit about this build. It's probably the best starter build if you're new to the game. Very safe to play, not a lot of risk involved in dying, and doesn't require a lot of gear. Actually has barely any gear requirement. So, let's get this started. The first build I'm going to show off is the one I did for open beta at the start, which is the Summoner Dual Totem Templar with Spork totems. You can use any kind of totem you want, and what I mean with that is you can put any skill in it you want that you feel comfortable with. Personally, I use Spark, so you can use whatever you want. Anyway, let's get on with this because this is the third time I record this. My fraps kinda broke, so had to fix that, and it's getting kinda tedious saying the same things again for the third time, but we'll see how it goes. Hopefully I don't miss anything. What I did with this build was I took everything here at the start, all of it, good defense and all that good stuff, then I moved down to the Marauder and put 2 points of the 3 into the totems. The third one you put in as soon as you can use spell totem or as soon as you have it, otherwise don't put it in yet. That has to be a sexual joke. Anyway, as soon as you fix your spell totem, you take that point, you complete the Marauder, and then you move up all the way here to minion instability and static blows. So you take that, and from here on out you can do pretty much whatever you want. You can either take more minions, more health, or more lightning damage, depending on what you feel like you need. I guess the problem comes here that minion points are wasted when it comes to totems, and totem points are wasted when it comes to minions. They don't scale with each other, they don't benefit from each other at all. So I guess that's the kind of fault of this build, that you have two things that you're required to put in quite a lot of points into work, and they don't really help each other out. So that was kind of a bad planning for me maybe, but the build works fairly well. I got to Act 3 Hardcore, no that's solo Cruel Piety for example, without any trouble, so it definitely works. It just doesn't work as well as I thought it would. Anyway, so once you get here, make your own decisions. I know it's kinda hard, like, oh my god, Ariok, you're leaving us here, what should we pick? But, you know, just whatever you feel like you need, basically, is what you should take. If you feel like maybe you're dying a bit too much, you know, you're probably low on HP, take some extra HP. You feel like, my minions are dying too quick, maybe I need a couple of more of them, go for it. Or if you feel like, yeah, this is pretty good right now, the amount of minions I have is good, maybe you want to take some more totem damage. Okay, having said that, I'm going to move on to my second build. Oh, I need to fix my screen, the cable. Okay, that's better. So, moving on to the second build, which is a witch, and this build uses a bow with poison arrow. So you might ask, Ariok, why are you using a poison arrow? Well, it's a very good question. As some of you might know, minions do not scale with spell damage, so having a spell damage dagger, pretty useless unless you want to cast some kind of spell. But why cast a spell? Because it's the same problem as my Templar build has. You know, if you want to use spells, then you need to put points into making spells good. Otherwise they're pretty useless. So that's exactly why we use Poison Arrow, because Poison Arrow does not need to have any kind of point spent for it to be good. It's, you know, it's poison damage, so it will always be fairly good, you know, works fairly well. So it's a nice complement for a build where, for example, minions, they don't really help scale anything except minions. So it's a really good complement for this build. I recommend having a bow with maybe 2+ bow gems in it, and having the poison arrow there, increasing its damage even further. Otherwise for this build it's quite the same as for the Templar. You take everything at the witch start, go to chaos, resist, and then you'd kind of decide yourself where you want to go from this point on. If you want to take Unnatural Calm, which is what I would do, I'd take this HP here, the Dex node, Unnatural Calm, and then I'd move up to Hexmaster, then to minion instability, and then from here on decide, do I want more minions, do I want more HP, do I want to go down to the Templar to get more defensive nodes, or do I want to keep getting all my summons? So again, one of those things where you have to make your own decision on what you really want. What is it that you need right now? Like, for example, some of you might come to this int node and then feel like you need to spend 4 points in all of this, but then we think about it. Do we really need dual curse right now? Maybe we don't need it. Maybe we need to continue to minion instability instead. Maybe we don't even need, you know, the permanent curse anymore right now. So maybe you wouldn't put that point there. So you kind of have to make your own decisions on where to move. So I'll speak a bit about the skill gems that I use for this build. First we have Raise Spectre, which is basically you raise a copy of the enemy you have slain. So you raise an exact copy, and it will use the abilities that the monster had. So I like to put this with minion damage and GMP, which is greater multiple projectiles. I do this because I like to res fairly powerful casters in Act 2 and 3 as my specters, which means they will have GMP, which then means they will have 5 projectiles to cast, and they just annihilate everything on the screen. It's really good stuff. Otherwise, I use, for my skeletons and zombies, I use minion life, minion damage, and culling strike. So this is if you had a 5 link, otherwise you have to choose if you want to use it only with the zombies or only with the minions, or only with the skeletons. I know some of you might already wonder now, what is culling strike? Well, culling strike is a green support gem, which basically says that if anything is on 10% or less, anything that's supported by the culling strike will kill them instantly. So your zombies will kill anything with a hit that has 10% or less HP. You can understand now why this is fairly good to have, and it's the gem I like to use in the zombies. Otherwise, for the 2 builds, for the Spark Totem build, you'd of course have the Totem, which is different from the Witch build. Otherwise they use the same gems basically. So for the Spark Totem, I'd use Spark, Fork, Faster Casting, and Spell Totem. And for example, for the Witch build, where we have the bow and the poison arrow, I'd use poison arrow with either LMP or GMP, which is lesser multiple projectiles or greater multiple projectiles. And then I'd use maybe increased duration and the pierce. Pierce of course goes before increased duration in the priority list of the support gems on the poison arrow. Otherwise, for auras, there are 2 mandatory auras for this build, which is Discipline and Clarity. You need them for both builds. Otherwise, Purity is good for both builds as well. Kinda optional depending on how much resist you have. The Templar build will have more resist than the Witch build, so maybe it's a bit more relevant to have on the Witch build because it's easier to max your resistance on the Templar. Otherwise, the Templar does fairly well with the haste, while the Witch does fairly well with the 2 elemental damage auras, which is Anger and Wrath. So you probably don't want to run a haste on the Witch build because the cast speed is pretty much wasted because there's not much use for it. Maybe, you know, for your specters, but feels kind of wasted to be honest, and a bit more useful for the Templar. When it comes down to gear, I'd use for the Witch, Energy Shield with HP, and for the Templar, of course, I'd use Armor Hybrid or just Energy Shield with HP. Armor Hybrid ES is a bit better than just pure ES, in my opinion. But if you can't get anything, if you get an ES piece that is better than the one you have, you might as well equip it. I think that's it for both builds. If I missed anything or you have any further questions, feel free to leave it in the comments below. I'll of course put both the builds in the description so you have the link and everything. So yeah, thanks for watching and I'll see you guys next time.